When we stop reading, we stop learning, and we just outsource our thinking. So I was talking to a friend this weekend about how she structures her mornings, how she studies what's happening now, and how she chooses resources that align with her season. And I loved that approach because the right resources can anchor you when everything else feels loud. So, right now, I'm intentionally choosing reading that supports reinvention and clarity, starting over, a strong mindset, and rebuilding from the inside out. The possibilities really are endless, and honestly, that excites me. But that excitement also comes with discernment. Welcome back to the Daily Champ. I'm Rachael Baxter, your host, and this is a space where we talk honestly about starting over, building clarity, strengthening our minds, and becoming intentional about who we're becoming and not just what we're producing. So here's some tension that I've been sitting with, especially from the perspective of hosting this show. My biggest question is, how do I stay relevant, but without losing my identity? See, hot cultural topics will always get attention. They'll get the clicks and the views, and I understand all of that and how it works. I've participated in celebrity gossip culture many, many years ago, starting at a young age, because it was the magazines on the table and we were pretty much all obsessed with it. But honestly, it slowly pulled me away from myself. I think I'm sure it's happened to many of us. We kind of lost our identity flipping through the pages of those magazines. And fast forward, we might be losing our identity by scrolling on Instagram or watching all the crazy stuff that's all over the internet, or kind of tuning in to the spicy language or, there's hosts out there that are super overly critical. They really play into the algorithm. Guess what? It works. But I don't want to be that because I'm deeply sensitive and I know this about myself. If I put something into the world that isn't aligned with my energy and it then lives on the internet forever, I truly will not sleep at night. So part of how this show is forming is all based on what I choose to read. So let me ask you a question for all you smart, capable ladies and gentlemen. What are you reading right now? And I don't mean what you're scrolling. I don't mean the podcast playing while you answer emails. And I don't even mean the book you bought 2 years ago and you kept meaning to start. I mean reading on purpose. Because when we stop reading, we stop learning and we just outsource our thinking. And we outsource it to the headlines, to the hot takes, to whatever the algorithm decides we should care about today. And if you've ever felt a little defensive when someone has asked you that question, it's not because you're lazy or unmotivated. It's because reading forces us to slow down, right? So maybe scrolling's a little more fun, of course, but slowing down forces us to confront who we are becoming. That's the whole point of this show. And who we are becoming, especially in seasons of reinvention. So today, we're talking about why what you're reading matters more than what you're posting and how choosing the right inputs can quietly change everything. So let me ask you again, what are you reading right now? And if you want to comment below, I would love that. But if the answer is nothing, or I don't have time, or I don't even know where to start, this episode is for you. But before we go any further, if this conversation is starting to resonate with you, please take a moment to like and subscribe and share this episode. It truly helps this community to grow. Now let's get into what's actually on my reading list. So for me, I do not read randomly. I read with intention. And right now I'm rotating through 5 categories. Number 1, leadership and business. Number 2, culture, driving, and vision. Number 3, strong mindset. Number 4, peak health. And number 5, entertainment just for fun. So we're going to start with leadership in business, and the book is called Becoming Boss Minded. Okay, this is by Marcy Barker. I met her 2 weekends ago at a conference she held for 36 female entrepreneurs. So I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about something that's been shaping how I think lately, and not just about business, but about how I lead, how I choose, and how I protect my energy. And I've been reading Becoming Boss Minded. And what I appreciate most about it is that it's not a hustle book and it's not a do more, push harder, burn brighter narrative. It's about becoming and not performing. And personally, as a female business owner, that distinction matters more than we're sometimes willing to admit, because so many of us don't fail in business due to a lack of talent or work ethic. We burn out because we try to build success without boundaries, clarity, or a framework that actually supports our lives. So what becoming boss-minded really means is you stop reacting and you start leading. You stop building based on pressure, and you start building based on purpose. So Marcy, the author, talks a lot about defining your version of success. And that alone is radical, because most of us inherited this definition of success that equals exhaustion, it's constant visibility, and saying yes to everything so we don't miss an opportunity. I think, sorry everyone, all the trend dances on social media. I mean, we can't say yes to everything, right? Unless that's in alignment with your energy. Well, being boss-minded asks a different question. What does success cost? And are you willing to pay that price? So honestly, that really hit me, because there are things I could do that I just simply won't anymore. And not because I can't, but because I'm clear. Another reason this book resonates is because its emphasis on boundaries, and boundaries not as walls, but more a strategy. And so for a lot of us, boundaries are often framed as selfish or cold, but being boss-minded reframes boundaries as leadership. So when you protect your time and your energy and your attention, you're not shrinking, you're actually sharpening. And I'll get behind that. This book also reinforces something I've learned the long way. Confidence doesn't come from doing more. It comes from trusting yourself to choose well. When you're boss-minded, you don't chase every trend. You don't dilute your message to stay relevant. You don't build a business that requires you to disappear as a human. You build something that reflects who you actually are. And so for me, reading this book alongside my 90-day vision work has been completely grounding, and it's helped me step back and ask, what am I building? And who am I becoming while I build it? That's the real work. And if you are someone in business who feels capable but tired, you're ambitious but you're conflicted, and you're completely driven but protective of your peace, this book is not meant to hype you up. It's actually meant to steady you. And it reminds you that leadership isn't about volume, it's about alignment. And that's what being boss-minded really gives you. It gives you that permission to lead without sacrificing yourself in the process. All right, number 2, culture-driven reads. I actually have a lot of the books stacked up on my lap here. Every time I move, I hit the mic. Okay. But this book I actually don't have, and I'm going to just put up on screen. So this book has been reshaping how I think about business and leadership and what it really means to build something that lasts. The book is called 4 Seasons, the story of a business philosophy. Now, when most of us hear 4 Seasons, we think luxury, iconic hotels, impeccable service, glamour, 5-star experiences. And I really do. I've always admired a 4-season experience. They're just they just do luxury and hospitality and kindness really well. And so I always thought, my goodness, who envisioned this beautiful concept and really kept it going as this solid brand? So the author, the one who founded Four Seasons, his name is Isidore Sharp. And he takes you past the surface glamour and into the philosophy that built a global brand known for consistency, respect, and care. And there's a real lesson in that for those in business, not about like luxury, but really about excellence and how it's built inwardly before it's expressed outwardly. I'm going to highlight that one. If I were you, I would highlight that one too. Maybe I'll say it again. It's the excellence that's built inwardly before it's expressed outwardly. So let's talk about what this book actually teaches and why it can be so transformative for business owners and entrepreneurs in their reinvention phase. So number one, consistency is a culture, not a tactic. So most businesses chase tactics, faster, louder, flashier. But Four Seasons teaches that excellence isn't occasional, it's consistent. It's not just in a service action, but in values and behavior and standards that become non-negotiable. And as business owners, especially those of us balancing multiple roles like wearing many hats, consistency isn't always easy and we can be brilliant starters, but the real power lies in what we sustain. So what consistent discipline are you building into your business? Not tomorrow and not when you feel like it, but always. That's the Four Seasons lesson. So number two, the philosophy starts with people. This brand didn't rise because of marketing gimmicks. It grew because of how people were treated, not just guests, but the employees. And when service becomes a philosophy instead of a checklist, the business becomes a community. This is really relevant for those who are leading teams and taking care of their clients or audiences. Remember, people don't follow brands. People follow humans. And culture is not given, it's chosen. So when your team feels valued, seen, and supported, loyalty becomes the byproduct, not the pursuit. Third lesson, leadership through respect and restraint. A lot of leadership books focus on disruption or competition. But what makes Four Seasons different is leadership through respect and consistent standards, not a spectacle or noise. And so for business owners, that really matters. So we have enough shouting in business culture, don't we? I see it everywhere and every day. I see like all the trend copying, and it could have nothing to do with what that business offers. Okay. So back to my point. Excellence doesn't always need to be loud. Sometimes it just needs to be steady and curious and internally anchored. Another brand I really love to follow is The Local Project. And if anyone has watched their videos on YouTube or followed them on Instagram, leave a comment below. I'd love to get your take on it. So that kind of anchored leadership actually attracts people who want substance, not just flash. And I do think we live in a society where we see a lot of people just, they want the impulse culture, but I really do believe deep down inside, for a lot of us, for the majority of us, we truly want substance. So number four, the fourth lesson, values over virality. Going viral. This book reminded me of something so crucial. If your business depends on virality, you're building for attention. But if your business depends on values, you're building for impact. So for those of us who are trying to navigate relevance without losing identity, like I was mentioning earlier, this book is golden for you because it's not about the loudest voice in the room. It's about the most trusted. And that's what I really like to deliver for my clients. We're going to make it beautiful. We're going to tell a story, but the whole purpose is so that your audience trusts you. And trust is crafted slowly with repeatable actions over time. So listen, everyone, as I'm building this podcast, I realize there are people who are building podcasts that are on this amazing fast track, and I'm not sure that's going to be the case for me. But, I imagine this could take a year or two or maybe even 3, and I'm here for it because I know I have a very specific vision for the Daily Champ and for the community I want to build. And I'm here showing up weekly, being very consistent, and talking on topics that I really believe build us up so that we could be stronger and be better leaders and overall help society. And the 5th lesson, reinvention isn't abandoning standards, it's refining them. And so one of the reasons I'm reading this now, especially in a season of branding work and visioning, is because reinvention often gets mistaken for disruption, and disruption gets mistaken for shaking things up. Before seasons shows something else. Reinvention is not about tearing down the foundation, it's about strengthening it. It's refining the heart of what makes you, you. And that's what sustainable growth feels like. So I have a personal connection to this book because I'm in a season of refining and not replacing. I'm asking what parts of my business philosophy deserve continuity, not just what's new, but what is true. And that alignment and clarity changes how you show up, how you make decisions, and how you steward your influence. All right, on to category number 3. That last one was pretty long, but worth it. So the strong mindset category, I'm going to talk about this book called The Pivot Year. The Pivot Year. This was a gift from a friend. I was about to embark on a big move, a lot of change in front of me, and she was also going through something very similar, so she gifted me with this book. Her name is Allie, and she's amazing. So I want to talk about how this particular book quietly changed how I think about my own progress and growth and intentional change. So I'm reading this, and I'll tell you what makes it really different. It's not a book that you're going to devour in one sitting, and you're not going to fly through it like a novel or a business playbook. You return to it. It's a daily read, and not because you need more structure, but because transformation, real lasting transformation, doesn't happen in big leaps. It happens in quiet, consistent choices. And that idea has been so grounding for me because things just don't happen overnight. And as we talk about reinvention, we often imagine a dramatic pivot, a point where everything just changes in an instant. But honestly, life rarely works that way. Transformation is not a moment you wake up and suddenly become someone else. It's the accumulation of small practices, small reflections, small shifts in perspective. And that's what Pivot Year invites you to do. Every day there's a prompt or a reflection, something that pulls you out of that autopilot mode and then back into intentional living. And here's the part that resonates the most. It doesn't ask you to be perfect, which is a theme here at the Daily Champ. It doesn't demand overnight overhaul. Instead, it asks, are you ready? Are you ready? Are you present today? Are you choosing awareness today? Are you leaning into what matters today? We can lose sight of those questions very easily, but they are simple questions. And if you ask daily, they begin to shape your life more than a bold declaration ever could. So let me share why that matters for those of us in business, especially those who are ambitious, who lead teams, people who build, who care deeply. Because what usually happens is that we fall into either of two traps. We either rush forward without reflection, or we stall because we're waiting for a significant moment before we start. Pivot Year actually bridges that gap. It reminds you that transformation isn't big change first. It's consistent alignment with who you want to become. It's choosing again today what you said you wanted yesterday. And it's showing up not in perfection, but in presence. I love it. It's great. And I'll tell you what I love about it. the most. It's not a shortcut. It's this invitation. It's this invitation to just slow down in order to go further. It's this invitation to reflect in order to lead well. It's an invitation to become, not by force, but by intention. Because when you read a page a day and you sit with it and you carry it with you, you carry it into your morning or your walk or as you're drinking coffee, it begins to shape how you see yourself and how you act in the world. And that to me is the heart of transformation. Not a dramatic change overnight, but quiet, steady growth day after day. That kind of reflects back to what I said 2 episodes ago of the 90-day vision. We're taking time. When we're in this season of reinvention and we're trying to build momentum, but we don't want to lose ourselves in the process. We're still human. Well, this book reminds you that it's not shaped by one moment. It's shaped by many moments lived with intention. And if you're wondering how to read it, it doesn't matter. You can do it before the sun comes up or quietly in the evening. But the whole idea is just to return to it again and again because transformation happens in the return. All right. So for the 4th topic, peak health, I want to focus on immunity. And so the book is called The Immunity Fix, co-authored with Dr. James DiNicolantonio and Seamland. Now, Seamland, probably butchered Dr. James's last name, but it is a long one. And guess what? You might have heard of him. He has the most amazing posts. It's just simple health advice, tips, easy, and all of the posts go viral. People love him. A little personal note that's been shaping not just about health, but how I show up every day. Lately I've been reading this, and what I appreciate most about it isn't just the science, but it's the perspective that it brings. I think especially for those of us who are leading and building and creating and caring for so many people, especially in such what feels like a chaotic world, health can easily get neglected and move to the very bottom of the list. It becomes something we hope will stay strong while we pour strength into everything and everyone else. But the reality is, if your immune system is strong, everything in your life, your productivity, your creativity, your resilience, your relationships, all of that benefits. So this book doesn't promote quick fixes or miracle solutions, but what it does offer is a framework for understanding immunity in a way that is proactive, informed, and empowering. And not fear-based and not reactionary, but grounded in evidence and real-world strategies. As someone who really strives to be intentional about what I put into my body and how I care for my energy, I found this book deeply refreshing. It reminds us that your health isn't a checklist. It's not something you think about when you get sick. It's a system, a whole set of interconnected parts that needs consistent attention, supportive inputs, and respect. And that's the piece most of us miss. We don't think about immunity until something goes wrong. So this book flips that script, and it invites you to think about your body the way you'd think about your business. Not just reacting to a crisis, but cultivating strength so crisis is less likely to take hold in the first place. It's preventative. It's preventative, it's empowering, and it reinforces that idea that your health is something you shape, not something that happens to you. So the part that really struck me is that most of the strategies in the Immunity Fix are not glamorous, and they don't come in buzzwords or overnight promises. They come in consistency, in trust, in honoring your body the way you honor the things you value most. It's not about perfection. It's about choice, and that's why this book isn't just a health read, it's a discipline read, because immunity doesn't operate in silos. It's connected to your sleep and your stress and your relationships, your mindset, your digestion, your movement. Your immune system is not separate from your life. It is your life. So for those of us that are building and leading and creating, especially those who are ambitious and intentional, reading a book like this is a way of saying, I value my future self. That's a radical act of self-leadership. It's not self-indulgence. It's not vanity. It's just self-leadership. And the beauty of this book is that it doesn't require you to overhaul your life overnight. Same theme here, right? It asks you to ask better questions. How am I nourishing myself today? How am I protecting my energy? What small choice can I make right now that supports resilience tomorrow? Those are the kinds of questions that compound day after day, not in a dramatic way, but in a sustainable way. And sustainable strength, that's real power. So if you're in a season where you're building and living with intention, take a look at this book, not as a health book, but as a guide for sustaining your life and your energy and your capacity, your resilience. Because when your immune system is strong, everything else becomes possible. And that is just the God honest truth. The fifth category, entertainment. Yes, that counts. Do you want to know what that book is for me? Well, it is Harry Potter. I took the paper part off because it's not always about business. It's not just mindset or health or leadership. I'm reading the fifth book of the Harry Potter series just for entertainment, and I'll tell you why. At night, I don't want my brain solving so many problems. I don't want the news cycles. I don't want to fall asleep to someone else's stress or urgency playing in the background. And for a long time, I just leave the TV on, thinking it would help me wind down. But it kind of just kept my nervous system alert, that bright light, fast dialogue, emotional stimulation. So I made a shift. Instead of screens, I read. And I'm sure a lot of you do this. But I don't want to read something heavy and nothing really immersive or familiar, just imaginative. And that's where Harry Potter comes in. Now, I didn't start from the beginning because I actually don't own the full series. I started with book 5, and then because I have 6 and 7. That's the only reason why I'm starting with 5. I'm not going to go back. Okay. Now, I feel like I don't mind it. And some of you might just say, no, don't do that. Well, listen, I know the I've seen all the Harry Potter movies. Okay. So I feel like I'm a little further along. Okay. It's cheating, but I'm here to read it for fun. It's my bedtime plan. When you read a physical book or like a Kindle, like on low light, you're like slowing your breathing. Your body begins to settle. Your mind enters a rhythm that screens really do disrupt. So when the story is rich and non-threatening, your nervous system finally gets permission to reset, and all of that matters because quality sleep isn't just about rest, it's about the restoration. So that's it. Just reading a book. I'm someone who's constantly on leading, creating, building. Sleep is not optional. It's foundational. And reading fiction at night has become one of the more supportive sleep aids in my routine. It tells my brain, hey, you don't need to solve anything right now. You're safe to rest. You can simply be. And honestly, that's powerful. All right, those are the 5 categories. That's my reading list. I really wonder what yours is. Drop it in the comments. So let's bring it all together. Or I'll throw it out to you. Is there anything else I should be reading? Because, I'm in this place of who am I becoming and what supports that. Obviously, I don't need to read what everyone else is reading, and that goes for you too. You don't need to read everything. You just need to read with intention, read on purpose. And if you've been avoiding that question, maybe this is the season to answer it. And I'd love for you to answer it in the comments. All right, if this episode challenged you or encouraged you, please share it with someone who's tired of cliches and ready for real conversations. And if you want to keep growing together, please join Club Champ. It's my private Facebook group where we talk through this tough stuff and champion each other forward on a daily basis. Thanks for watching The Daily Champ. See you next week.